Hi everyone, and welcome to the Google Developer Space channel. I'm Joey, and this is Shafras. We're both from the Google Developer Relations team. We hope everyone is keeping safe and well wherever you are. For those who are already tuning in, do give yourself a shout out on our live chat or the Facebook comment and let us know where are you tuning in from. Before we begin our very first In the Cloud event, let us share a little about who we are and what we do. So Google Developer Space is a home for developers and startups from around the region to learn, connect, engage, and be inspired. We want to empower and connect the community to our people, program, network, and technology. And without further ado, I'd like to pass the stage to our main host tonight, Shafras, to do a quick intro about what the event is all about and who do we have in line for speakers.
Awesome. Thank you, Joey. Hey, everyone. Today we are going to start off a new Tech Talk series with Google Developer Space on Google Cloud Technologies. So cloud technologies are something most businesses, companies, developers are keen on using due to cost effectiveness, efficiency, increased productivity, or even availability of tools. So in terms of selection of Google Cloud technologies per se, you would find there are public clouds, there are private clouds, or even hybrid ones that companies and developers would want to use. Having said that, Google Cloud launched a new cloud region in Indonesia yesterday. If you're from Indonesia and if you're joining in, if you're tuning in now, put a comment down below saying how happy you are. And if you are not from Indonesia and if you still want to check out how the cloud region look like, you can easily go and check it out from the Google Cloud Console, and easily you can check it out by creating a VM. So today's discussion is on Google Cloud serverless tools and technologies. To talk about it today, we have two Google developer experts on cloud joining with us. So we have Weiyuan joining with us. He's tech lead at Rakuten. And we have Hairizuan joining with us. He's a DevOps engineer at Acronis, and he's also a Google Cloud certified professional architect. So let's welcome Weiyuan and Hairizuan to the show.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hi Weiyuan. Hi Hairizuan. It's great to have you both here. And
Thanks for having
our
us.
viewers, yeah, definitely. And I'm sure you both had a very wonderful week and a busy week as well, where you were a part of the 24-hour DevRel talks as well.
Yeah, that was a surprising event. 24 hours is, I don't know, it feels like too much GCP content. But then again, maybe it's not too much content. Like there's always time for GCP.
That's true. You can pick and choose which technology that you want to listen to as well. So to our viewers, I would like to remind you to stay tuned until the end, as we have some virtual giveaways and announcements on free training and discounts for certifications. So stay tuned. And if you have any questions, please do not forget to post it up in our live Q&A. So let's move on with the first segment of the event, which is the rapid fireside chat. So in this rapid fireside chat, what we're going to do is we're going to ask 5 questions, which will be directed to Weiyuan and Hairizuan, and let's see what they have to say. All right, Weiyuan and Hairizuan, you both are ready?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, the first question. We want to be clear, and we want to know, Weiyuan, can you tell us what is serverless is all about?
So I'll say the very theoretical definition for it is that you're looking at the cloud provider where they are providing the actual service, the server itself, and you're looking at them dynamically providing or provisioning all these resources for you. But I think the more layman terms of like describing it is that it's referring to traditional concerns like hardware, as well as like things like server racks. You don't look at those things in like your physical offices nowadays when you are looking at something like serverless. And also looking towards more modern concepts like, for example, load balancing, scaling. So serverless itself takes care of all of these different concerns all under one umbrella as a single product. As a company, you just take care of the application, you deploy the product. You just want to make sure your product is as good as possible.
All right. So that sums up. If you are new to serverless and you want to know what is serverless is all about, here we have a very good description from Weiyuan. Okay. So the second question, Hairizuan will have a very deep descriptive answer to this. So Hairizuan, why do you think serverless is important? Or does serverless important at all?
To be honest, like serverless is not important to the point that you have to have all your compute resource, applications or move to serverless. Is not that important, but to that point. But then, if you think about it, it's just another way to get applications to production environments. So this whole paradigm kind of came about because of how the computer industry kind of evolved in terms of how your infrastructure is virtualized. Everything is now virtualized. So eventually, like this kind of came along. So this whole serverless thing is built around the needs of the developer. So because for the developer, the application is their one main concern. Everything else, like how do you get it to production, like what kind of network you want to use, which server you want to put it in, which OS you want to run it in. All these are not your typical application developers' concerns. The application developer needs to be more concerned about how the application work. Does it function well? Unit tests and everything. All those stuff are application developer concerns. Other things like the deployment and everything. Yeah, those are sometimes not too interesting to application developer. So
so serverless is important after all.
Yes and no. Yeah, I guess so.
So I think that's a very valid point. So how things evolved throughout the years, how people had to maintain infrastructure, how app developer had to go through the same activities, and then now with the serverless technologies coming in, app developers has the opportunity to focus on what they do really well. So that helps out really well as well. So Hairizuan, can you tell us what are the serverless technologies or tools available inside GCP?
If you're talking about compute options, okay, there's a nice summary videos about compute options. So there are 5 compute options, but 3 of them are more of the serverless paradigm, I suppose. So starting from the one where the developer has the least control over his environment is your cloud functions. Then after that, building on top of that is Google Cloud App Engine. And then the one that's more flexible where developer can play around with containers is Google Cloud Run. Anything beyond that, your Kubernetes engine, compute engine, those require a bit of work in terms of the infra side. So those are compute options. But I mean, if you want to talk about the other stuff like databases and everything, that will go on for a while. Let's just stick to compute options for now.
Awesome. So you mentioned about cloud functions, you mentioned about App Engine, and also you mentioned about Cloud Run. Okay.
Yes.
So Weiyuan, so can you give us like a little bit of intro to all what these 3 products are and how it works?
So just to continue on what Hairizuan mentioned, so you have these 3 different serverless tools out of the 5 compute products, and you can use all 5 of them to build different applications. And each one of them serve a different area, based on your own infrastructure needs. I can start off with the cloud functions first because that's one of the simpler examples to go with. And I think some of you might be familiar with this term, which is called functions as a service. And it's essentially that you're looking at writing not the entire application, but a single entry point for that application. So for example, if I'm running something like a node cloud function, I can create an application for that, but all it has is one single entry point. That entry point can be fixed to a pub sub topic or a single HTTP endpoint. And basically your cloud function just serves that one single purpose from there. And then if we go a bit lower, you start approaching the area that is more PaaS, platform as a service, but not entirely over there. And we have things like Cloud Run. So Cloud Run was something that was released last year. And the idea there is, is there a way to containerize your product, your application, and just deploy it on the cloud? And once you've containerized it, the idea is if you scale it, you just need to bring up like 10 of these containers or 20 of these containers. Load balancing is the same concept. Just pump it to each one of these different containers. And I think it's a very successful concept because a lot of us, we are using Docker nowadays. Being able to, or rather the idea that creating containers and images as part of your build for your CI/CD pipelines is ingrained to a lot of our build process. So being able to migrate from, let's say, a traditional VM where you deploy onto the VM itself, the application, moving over to something like Cloud Run where you just need to provide that image and they can help you take this image and create an application that's scalable, that can be load balanced. I think that's really awesome. App Engine is a bit more off, or rather actually App Engine, to correct myself, it's between, I would say, Cloud Run and Cloud Functions, where it has some options that you can use within Cloud Run. It has some that's, I would say, a bit more similar to Cloud Functions, but it's in a different area. So for App Engine, there's a range of different options you can use. There's App Engine Standard and App Engine Flex. App Engine Standard, essentially, you're looking at the runtimes that are defined already by Google that they support. So essentially, you create applications, for example, a Node 10 application. You can write an application that runs in that environment and you deploy it within App Engine Standard. They will run it within a sandbox that emulates this environment. And it is able to deploy and scale a lot faster. But if you want something that's more custom, you can go for something like App Engine Flex, where you can write in different languages. And one of the options I really like about App Engine Flex is custom runtime. So before Cloud Run came out, I think people were also asking about, is there a way, can I write in a language that nobody uses? Or in this case, like let's say GCP, maybe that they don't support it in App Engine Standard yet. Maybe something like R, for example. So why not do that in a Docker image as well and use it under App Engine custom runtime? So that was an option in the past. I think now more people would have shifted over to Cloud Run because it's a lot faster to scale using Cloud Run with Docker containers and images.
Yeah, that's true. So I think there were like multiple questions around, hey, why do we have App Engine Flex and then Cloud Run? So I think Cloud Run actually tried to solve a lot of other things App Engine Flex didn't have by that time. Yeah. All right. So we are moving on to the final question in the first segment of this Tech Talk. So, okay. So this question is going to be to both of Hairizuan and Weiyuan. So this question is, which GCP serverless tools do you like the most and why?
Me?
So
okay, maybe I'll start off first. Yeah.
Okay.
So my answer is actually a little bit how do you call it, diluted because there's 3 tools, and I'll actually say I like 2 of them, which is Cloud Run and App Engine. I think App Engine was kind of like maybe a childhood thing. I don't know how to call that, but I used it around in 2010 or 2011, and I think GCP was around 3 to 4 years old at that time. There was something that I already used before. I think back then it was actually a lot different. And I think over the years, they introduced the options like the custom runtime, which made it a lot easier to use. And the idea is this, using serverless itself with App Engine, right? It was very easy to create entire pipelines within GCP. Like, you combine it with Cloud Build. You could use the G-Cloud client to immediately do a very simple CD that allows you to deploy, like after you run your test, build your assets, just deploy the App Engine right away. But I think over time, when Cloud Run came in after that, I think I fell in love with Cloud Run even more because like it's a lot faster. It's built on Knative. It's no longer on, in custom runtime, right? App Engine Flex, the problem is that they need to spin up an actual compute engine VM and put your application there. With Cloud Run, they're running on Knative. So the instance itself, it's a lot faster to scale. The start itself is also a lot faster. Like for App Engine, for an application, let's say if I could have taken maybe up to 10 minutes to build and deploy the application, within Cloud Run, I made the calculation before. I think it took like maybe 1 to 2 minutes. In fact, I did a video on comparing that before. And yeah, Cloud Run itself seems like a better choice for my own needs nowadays in terms of the Dockerized applications that I have. But still, I love both. I mean, App Engine is like my old love. Cloud Run is the new one.
All right. Awesome. So Hairizuan, what do you think?
I'm gonna second like Weiyuan's opinions around Cloud Run. I mean, he kind of covers most of the points on why that service is kind of a big win for many people, I guess. Like when Cloud Function first rolled in, the main question is like, oh, what if I need to like put in some weird binary and like get that running in my application? How do I do that? And in the past, the answer would be, I guess use a VM, I suppose. But Cloud Run kind of like solve this whole issues where just embed it into the container, throw it past the wall, throw it to GCP. GCP will run it for you. So it's a very beautiful, very elegant solution to this whole thing. So yeah.
Awesome. So I still do recall Hairizuan taking that example. It's always beautiful where you let GCP to run it, use Cloud Run. I remember he was talking about that in a previous meetup session as well. All right. So that wraps up our fireside chat. And the next up is we go deep dive in one particular topic area which a lot of people are talking about these days. And let's move on to our second segment, which is the cloud deep dive. All right, awesome. So in this cloud deep dive, what we're trying to do is we are trying to talk about a particular question area which is being spoken recently heavily by developers, companies, and other people who are interested in cloud as well. So this is a real world challenge and how that can be solved. The discussion is around when migrating from monoliths to microservices, how do you think GCP serverless tools can be used? So that's the sort of the question that we're going to talk through about today, in a little broader, a little deeper as well. And I see there are a couple of questions also around monoliths, microservices. Hey, this is how can you manage all these microservices, etc. Which part do you recommend as well? So I think we can go deep dive on this. Hairizuan, Weiyuan, what do you all think?
Yep, sure. It's a question that keeps popping up again and again, many times. So I guess I'll start first. So regarding this whole about monolith to microservices, right? As much as people want to believe that, oh, okay, with all these new tooling provided by your cloud providers, I can easily make the jump. I can move my applications to microservices, and all my problems will be solved, and everything will be taken care of. The world will be beautiful and good. But it's usually a lie, and it's a lie that people keep telling themselves. So the main important thing about this whole monolith to microservices is, before even thinking about what tools to even use, the first thing is to actually look into, like, for the company, is to look into yourself and think from the cultural perspective of whether are you really ready to move to that microservice world. Because moving to this whole microservice world, like, a lot of paradigms need to be changed. So imagine this: if you are a big company and you have this yearly application release. So you build your application, you take 1 year to build, there will be delays or something maybe. So instead of the 1 year plan release, you have 1 year, 2 months, because 2 months of stabilization or something. Then you release the application 1 year, 2 months. So imagine that model. Then like some guy parachutes in and say, okay, let's move to microservices. So now you break out all your applications, but then you stick to your whole model of like doing your yearly release. So now you take 1 year to break all your applications and add new features, and then do your next release. Now, instead of having one big monolith binary to deploy, now you have hundreds of small little binaries to deploy all at one go. How do you think that will go? That will be, most of the time, it will just end quite disastrously. So that's the thing. Like there needs to be some sort of mind shift before even thinking about how to get it going. That's kind of step one, because the whole point of this whole microservice is one of the main benefits of this is being able to have some applications move faster than others. You need to have different deployment pipelines for different parts of your application. So if that is not going to be part of your culture, your development culture, it's going to be really, really hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's going to be hard for everyone. Everyone's going to like, there'll be a lot of vulgarities flying around the room. Yeah, that's kind of my first take to this question, I suppose. I guess Weiyuan has wrong hand. Weiyuan has some opinions on that as well.
I do agree with the sentiment that serverless is not the silver bullet that solves this problem. Nevertheless, it can help to alleviate the problem which is worrying about infrastructure. I like to take a real world example from like myself, part of a team that actually we did this. Okay, not entirely this. We did from monolith to services, not microservices. Okay. So what happened was we're supporting this product at Viki called Sumpi. So it's a Korean news publication network. You say like you can go there and search for Korean news, latest news on K-pop and K-dramas. And one of the issues was that we were running on this application or running as a WordPress application for a very long time. The issue was that a lot of plugins were built on top of each other. And the fun fact of this is that the WordPress application was also used to support the mobile application. There was like some provider that we use, somehow they can get the WordPress application to generate some mobile application. Okay, so essentially it was like the monolith of monolith. It was really every service put together as one. And I think the very damning point, like when it dawned on us that we should really move away from that, was that so fun fact, 2 years ago, I'm not sure if you guys know of this guy named Song Joong-gi. He got married to the fellow co-star on Descendants of a Sun, and that brought down our service. People hammered our service so bad that we started thinking like, looking at this is a monolith. I mean, we weren't even getting a very, like, the load that was hitting our server wasn't even that high if you compare it to other services out there.
Yeah.
And we started thinking like, okay, this is not the way to do it. Like this monolith itself, there's too many things inside as well. Like the motivation wasn't actually because it's a monolith. Monolith works for some different applications for different products. I think ours was a monolith not because by design, but because of necessity. We had only a few engineers working on that product. They have to build that from the start. But now we have more developers working on it. It made sense that now we started breaking it down into services. And serverless was one of those things that we looked at because for our front-end team, we wanted to take away the idea of worrying about infrastructure. If you are the front-end team, we want to make sure we build a very good single-page application. Scaling shouldn't be a problem. Load balancing shouldn't be a problem. So that's why we moved to using App Engine at the start when we shifted Sumpi over from WordPress to as in for front-end service. But the fun fact is this: the backend service is actually not serverless. We built it in Kubernetes. Okay. It was part of the, I would say, experimentation in the company as well to look at using Kubernetes for other services. And I think within the Kubernetes cluster, there's actually also a few microservices. It's not entirely microservices, but there are a few that does only specific things that they are tasked to do. So it was a very good attempt to try out certain concepts for us, both using serverless as well as using Kubernetes, moving away from a monolith. So in the end, I think mirroring a part of what Hairizuan mentioned, like going back to your own company, what are the use cases that you're looking at? What are you trying to solve? If you answer those questions, likely maybe you will come up to serverless, and I think serverless will definitely help you to solve part of those problems in terms of infrastructure.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's very important. Like, thanks Weiyuan for sharing your very own experiences, how the traffic got into breaking a whole system down. So that I'm sure, like moving away from how the monolith was to kind of moving on to a app engine approach that of course it helped to kind of scale because from the backend itself, it automatically you can scale it as well. And I'm sure.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just as a really fun fact, so I just thought out about this. So they got married and that crashed our system. I think if some of you might be familiar, last year they divorced and the hurt came back again. But this time around, it didn't break our system. So I think that was very, after we migrated, something worked. The plan itself worked. We moved into a much more scalable services infrastructure overall. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a sad moment for both of them. And also a very happy moment for the team who built the solution in terms of like validation and, hey, things work. That's an actual realization. So Hairizuan, you were mentioning about now it's very important the teams to go back to their drawing boards, understand how the processes inside companies would work, and also the team culture, how exactly this monolith is working. And you were like previously when we were catching up, you mentioned, hey, if the monolith is working fine, why do you want to break it down into microservices? Just because it's the cool kid in the block, right? So now, do you think even inside monoliths, can serverless type of activities can be used, or is it necessarily should be used with microservices? What do you both think?
Yeah, I mean, how do we say this? It's kind of like sad to say that sad to see that people look at these microservices and monolith and it's like, oh, I need to choose one. It's either one or the other. It's like, no, you can have a big giant monolith that is your main like revenue generating product and not touch that because it's stable. It's bringing the company money. Nothing's burning down yet. Then you can build like little microservices that like support new functionality around that giant monolith. That's definitely one of it. So I think like I did like one of my old roles. I was thrown like one big like Django application, and what was needed was they wanted to suddenly add some email functionality, and that like Django, if you ever play with it and it was like not maintained that well, it's like now you have no idea how do you add that specific function. So instead of going with the approach like, oh, we need to somehow squeeze that functionality somewhere and hope nothing breaks. So one approach could be you have the Django application, not touch because it's legacy app, no one want to like break it. And then you have this small little microservice that like essentially takes like the Django service will receive a request and then forwards that request to this small little microservice, and that like forwards it to whatever email service out there that like do the that sends the email to customers, etc. So yeah, you can like one can kind of work around with all this. Like essentially, okay, let's say if you have your giant application that's like you can't move it, you put it in like a virtual machine, GCE virtual machine, or maybe even on bare metal. And then if you want to like develop new applications, maybe you try out like this provides you a platform to try out like a new platform like Cloud Run or something. Make a small Docker application, throw it in. Then you have your big giant monolith call out to this small microservice to do your extra functionality. That is one possible route that one could take to add your more fancier stuff around your beautiful big giant monolith. Yeah.
Which is working.
Yeah, and stable and not burning anything down.
Yeah, that's true. So it also leads me up to another question. Like, Weiyuan, do you have any comments on what Hairizuan was mentioning?
No, I agree with what you mentioned as well. I think I was going to mention one comment, but he already mentioned it, which is, yeah, you have a monolith, it's not breaking, don't fix it. But you have new features, don't build on the monolith anymore. You want to break it out, build around it. Yeah, use serverless. Yeah, it's a good way to load balance from there or to scale from there.
Yeah, that's very true. And also why a lot of companies or developers are trying out Dockerizing and using containers is one of the reasons is that you can use different type of languages. They can use different type of OSs. It doesn't matter from what you build if that serves the purpose, right? So that actually helps. So now imagine now we have this like gigantic monolith in one day. Do you think if it's like in a place where it reaches out to breaking point, do you think people start regretting they didn't move into microservices, or what do you think? Should they have used microservice before, or would there be a regret? So would there be a regret for keeping up that microservice, or do you think, or do you recommend, like meanwhile this like gigantic, like beautiful monolith is working, should they have built something behind the scene to kind of port the whole thing, the operational aspects of it, into a new microservices environment?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, taking with like going on with the example that was mentioned earlier, we have this giant monolith that's like super stable and everything. Let's say this whole microservice is kind of the direction to go. One main thing to think about first is whoever, like the guy who's going to architect this whole thing, like first he needs to find out which part to split up. Okay, so basically just instead of taking this whole like big giant monolith and like break everything into many pieces immediately, instead of doing that approach, why not chisel out small important bits slowly? So if there is this kind of Malay saying of sorts where, like, you know, if you have a big giant mountain, if you keep like hacking on it, eventually that mountain will disappear and become small. So let's think of it that way, where you have this giant monolith, you know, then you keep hacking at it slowly, feature by feature. You take it out of the monolith and make it a microservice. Like, it kind of looks and deploys as a monolith, but then like as time goes on, as you take out features, extract features out, it becomes more microservice, take on a more microservice approach. But this kind of gives time for people in the company to kind of figure out how do we make this a microservice thing work. So one of the things is like they need to go and figure out is which feature to extract out from the monolith. Why they they want to extract out this feature? Is it because this is your hot path? Everyone keeps calling to this like one specific feature, so you need to scale this thing. But then you can't scale a monolith, because if you want to scale a monolith with, it's like cloning a giant and having that move around. That's like very. It's like kind of hard to do. So rather than that, chisel out that one small bit, put it into one potential place is you can utilize like GCP serverless tools, or you can just like drop it into like another virtual machine. Like essentially they are running differently. They don't run on the same VM also. And then have this monolith call this microservice. So the functionality is not broken. It's just that now you routed your traffic, you routed the hot path over to this other thing, and that service can handle that traffic and scale accordingly if needed. So I think that's would be a sane way to go about things. I do hear stories where the company is just like, yeah, let's go microservice and like break everything apart within like 3 months. Then everything starts like being very chaotic. Yeah, because like the thing is, like with this whole move from monolith to microservice, let's say if the company has always been working on the monolith, which is deployed on a VM, and when you go to the microservice world, one of the first things that you would think of is, oh, we got to use Docker. We maybe want to try to use an orchestration tool like Kubernetes. Those are new verbs, new technologies to kind of tackle. Even Cloud Run utilizes Docker, but Docker is still, I mean, it's old, but for some of us, but it's actually new for many people. Like, people have never heard, what the heck is a container? Then it's kind of hard to tell to these people who have been like in this industry for a long time, and suddenly you throw containers in their face. Yeah.
I recall Hairizuan was saying how he has to explain over and over again. So Hairizuan, next time you can blog about the whole container environment, and you can do that. So Weiyuan, so we are in the final stage. So if you can let know what you have to add to that comment, or what you have to say about it.
So maybe I'll jump in and just add a few points on moving over from a monolith to that microservice. And the idea is that you have this big monolith, you want to move over. I think the important part is, why are you moving over? You have to, basically do the 5W1H and find out why you have to go and do this thing. And along the path, I think one of the important things that you should look into first is monitoring. Do that. You need that telemetry into your current monolith, your current infrastructure. Understand, is it really performing that badly right now? Like if your monolith was designed by a really good engineer and is really performing really well for its current use cases, then maybe it's still okay. But if you start saying, okay, some parts are slowing down, maybe you have like your own on-prem database where you spin up your own, let's say, Postgres on a virtual machine somewhere, a persistent disk. And maybe that's starting to slow down. It's not easy to scale. Maybe you want to look into moving that to Cloud Secret. Okay, so you break out some of those easier movable parts first. And then for monitoring, that's very important, because monitoring, I think that it also has that mindset of, or rather the visualization where it's more reactionary. Use it to trigger alerts where you will respond to increased error rates and all that. But that's not true as well. You can also set in performance alerts. Let's say for the first time when you do it, setting performance alerts. When you see that, your monolith, parts of it is not doing as well. Maybe you can take this suggestion, move out to a more scalable approach, like using the serverless tools that we have.
Yeah, awesome. So all right. So I think we have come to the end of the cloud deep dive session, and that wraps up the whole session as well. Due to the time limitation, we can take one question, I think. So let me pop it up over here. So Shang is asking, while transiting towards a microservices model from a fully monolith, how much DevOps, example, go cloud formation, Kubernetes in GCP, did you have to pick up, and where you would start?
Oh my, this is an interesting question. Maybe I'll start off first, but my answer might be a bit more simplistic in that it's a ongoing journey. It's an ongoing learning process. For myself, when I first started off, so part of my story is not so much into transitioning from microservices to from a full monolith. Though Sumpi was kind of like that, but one other tale that I have was in regards to moving entire companies self-managed CI over to using cloud build. So it's something similar to that, self-managed to manage. And a lot of it has to do with learning as we do it. Like it's not so much into like picking up for a few months and then doing it after that. I think a lot of the tools in GCP, a lot of these cloud tools, right, are designed in a way where you can use it immediately with some help from documentation. You use more of it, you get better, it gets faster for you to do it. Like in the start, for a single cloud build configuration, I took like maybe 1 month to get a single application doing something correctly, because I wasn't used to the way it was doing as compared to our previous CI integration, like CI tool that we had. But after a while, we had the first one, it was successful. The second one took maybe a week. The third one took a day. Now it takes like minutes for me to finish it. So over time, you'll get better. But yeah, it's a continuous learning journey.
Yeah. All right. So that's definitely, that's something that we have to kind of understand, is that things doesn't fall apart into one place on like one single night. So we'll have to try out different approaches, see what exactly would fit in to your requirements, because there's no silver bullet, as Weiyuan mentioned, and as Hairizuan mentioned, monoliths also can be gigantic beauties. So with that, I would like to conclude the first ever in the cloud tech talk that we had. So hope you enjoyed the discussion, and we would like to thank Weiyuan and Hairizuan joining with us despite their busy schedules. Also, a big thanks goes out to our developer space team for hosting us. through our virtual developer space. Hairizuan, Weiyuan, would you like to say a few final words?
This is okay. Few final words. Stay safe, I suppose. That's one. I mean, right now we are still in phase 2, so yeah, that's one. But secondly is this whole serverless cloud paradigm. This whole thing is actually still a new world. It's probably, I mean, I would imagine like 1 to 2 years old, 3 years old at most, and I mean for AWS it's way longer, but for this whole cloud thing, like only picked up in 2 to 3 years ago, and like it's still a young field. Many things are popping up all over the place. New products, new features are being thrown at developers, and developers are expected to kind of learn to in order to cope with it. So you have tools on top of tools on top of tools. So it's going to be a continuous learning journey. Like there's always new tools to learn every day, every year, every month. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a final thing that I want to say.
Yeah, awesome.
Don't stop learning.
For me, maybe I have 2 things to add. I think this one comes from me as a student before. If you are interested, like you're here today, if you're interested in GCP, you're interested in serverless. As a student myself, I benefited from App Engine, using App Engine for a different purpose. I think back then, I'm not sure if there was GitHub pages back then, but I used App Engine as my own personal site. And the fun fact from this is that because the free tier for App Engine is free to use for 24 hours, but it's at the lowest tier, so you don't expect a very good performance from that. But I think as a student, I learned a lot from just being able to bring that up, maintain it, do all sorts of weird stuff with it. And because it's free to begin with, free stuff for a student, you can do a lot of things that you want with it. Nowadays, things are a lot better. There's things like quick labs. You can just get, let's say if you join any of our online workshops, sometimes they give you a free coupon code that you can use quick labs for 1 month. And you can just go in and play with all these serverless tools within, let's say, that 1-2 hours for each assignment. And you can do it for an entire month. So there's a lot of different learning opportunities for you guys out there. I think it's on top of the free App Engine as well if you want to mess with it in your own time. So I'll say, yeah, do try out these different tools. There's not a lot of cost to begin with, except maybe time. And okay, beyond that, another thing to mention is CloudNext is coming in 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks, somewhere in the middle of July. So if you're interested in CloudNext, they're definitely going to cover things like serverless, beyond like Kubernetes and all the other exciting stuff that they're going to talk about on launch. So I'll say, yeah, do join in those events. It should give you a better overview on what GCP covers in general. Yeah, and that's all from me.
Awesome. Thanks both of you.
Oh, Hairizuan has something.
Yeah, Hairizuan has something.
I got one more thing to add as well.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
next week we are GGG Cloud Singapore is going to have a webinar. I think we kind of forgot to mention that. Yeah, so we're going to have a webinar about BigQuery, I think, next Thursday evening. Yeah.
Oh, wow, the link is there.
Yeah, the link down there, so you can take a look at it. I believe there will be two speakers that day, talking about BigQuery. One of them BigQuery with Data Studio, and the other one is federated queries, sending those queries, like the data is somewhere else, and you use the BigQuery to do the querying for you. Yeah, something along that line. So if you're interested in such topics, see you there.
Awesome. So that's the link. If you want to subscribe to GDG Cloud Singapore's YouTube channel, you can go to this link and stay in touch with their future events. Hairizuan, Weiyuan, both of them are very active and they do a lot of activities. And this is their, I think, second or the third talk for this week. Thanks a lot, both of you, for joining in with us. So Hairizuan and Weiyuan, they emphasize on learning, why it's important. This is always a continuous learning. So for that, take a note of this link, goo.gle/cloud-training, where you could get free 1-month access to Quick Labs Explorer site. So you can get started or continue learning about GCP. So this will help you out in different ways. And even Weiyuan mentioned about Cloud Next Digital is upcoming. It's happening on July 14th. So you can stay tuned, go to the link, create your own playlist, see what's important for you, and then attend those sessions as well. And we promised that there'll be a discount opportunity if you want to get started, and if you want to take associate cloud engineer examination on Google Cloud. There's a 30% discount if you go to this link, gwo.gle/GCP-cert offer. The thing is, you will have to sign up before 30th June. This is only to sign up to this offer. It doesn't mean you have to take the exam by 30th June. Don't worry at all. Just take your time and prepare for the examination. So that will help you out with the certification that you want to take. And another thing I think Hairizuan forgot to mention is that he mentioned about a design pattern which he wants to kind of he found it a little exciting, and this is also from one of the speakers from Singapore. So go and check out this talk on Hacker Roundhouse. Hairizuan has recommended this for you to go and check out as well. All right. So with that, we would thank both Hairizuan and Weiyuan for joining in, and thanks to all our viewers for joining us today. Thank you for taking time to watch this video or Tech Talk, the first ever in the cloud session. Appreciate if you can take 2 minutes to fill up the feedback form by going to the link, which will be shown here. Is showing now screen, and we also mentioned about there'll be virtual gifts for lucky winners. So do fill this form up, and if you are a lucky winner, our team will contact you for further details. Awesome. And yeah, so please do share about your feedback so we could improve on our next session, and we can include the topics that you want us to talk about. And if you have any questions, please do go and put those up in the comment section as well. And yes, don't forget to subscribe to the Developer Space YouTube channel. Click on the bell icon so that you'll be notified about the latest events and videos. And we hope to see you soon. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. Don't forget to fill up the feedback form. Thank you.